So my talk is titled Our House at the End of the World. I want to put this down a little. Our house at the end of the world. And so our house is our community. And I love what we've talked about so far with the music and the meditation and the reading. Because I've been thinking about that lately, and it's something I'm working on, understanding what community is. And that's what I do with every talk I give. What do I want to know about? So I look for it. And you know what happens? It begins to appear everywhere. The ideas begin to appear everywhere. I see them, I hear them. I wish I would hear them on the news, but everywhere else, everywhere else. We're more closely connected than we realize. And if we did realize how closely connected we are, we might have more compassion for our fellow human beings. So one thing I notice if I listen to the news, which is not very often, there doesn't seem to be much compassion. We don't seem to understand or accept each other as well as I would like to think that we could. We do not know how they think. Occasionally we might know their hopes and dreams, the people around us. We don't know what they went through as children, and I don't know just what was the experience of even of my brothers and sisters who are quite different from me. My older sister is a psychologist. My younger sister is depressed, as my mother was. And my brother has PTSD, and my younger brother and sister don't take care of themselves. They're cared for by my older sister financially. They live on different coasts, east and west, but it's interesting. So the day the title popped into my head, in a way I understood, our house, yes, and at the end of the world, well, that was a bit more mysterious to me. But then I went to A Course in Miracles, which I've been reading. Not every day, but often. And even though we're divided, we are much more alike. And the end of the world is where we change the way we think about the world. And so Socrates said, there is no disease of the body apart from the mind. And we get to make ourselves ill with our minds as well as healing with our minds. So we not only heal ourselves, we heal the world. And Course in Miracles helps to do this. So here's just a few lines from the Course in Miracles. Through forgiveness, the thinking of the world is reversed. The forgiven world becomes the gate of heaven, because by its mercy, we can at last forgive ourselves. Holding no one prisoner to guilt, we become free. And we have to we do this in our community, but we hesitate to do it in the wider world because I think it makes us feel vulnerable to the difficulties of the world. So a woman named Pam Grout wrote The Course in Miracles Experiment, a starter kit for rewiring your mind and therefore the world. The universe dreams bigger than I do for myself. She takes each lesson in the workbook in the Course in Miracles and writes a commentary about it. There are a grand total of 2 ways to do things. Whether I'm writing a blog post or having a conversation with my best friend, whether I'm making a smoothie or plans for a European vacation, I either use the resources of door number 1 or door number 2. The drug of choice for many, this is door number 1, means using the power of my own resources. I'm guilty of thinking I am responsible for everything. I'm guilty of thinking that I can't get help when I need it. Door number 2, the only other choice, uses resources beyond my limited brain, encouraging me to conduct my life in faith, accepting all gifts bestowed by my invisible inner source. So this is a very interesting commentary on the Course in Miracles. So I've been reading this book lately. It was a book that I had in seminary, and I read parts of it, and I read more parts of it this time. It's called How Then Shall We Live? 4 Simple Questions That Reveal the Beauty and Meaning of Our Lives by Wayne Muller. And the 4 questions are, the 4 questions: who am I? What do I love? How shall I live knowing I will die? And what is my gift to the family of the earth? So in this talk, I just got to the first question. Who am I? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'll have to come back to it. It's just a treasure. This book is a treasure. So as we meditate on these questions, we reveal the nature of our love and our strength and our courage and our wisdom and the nature of our humanity. So I recommend, because I've been asking myself for a few weeks now, who am I? And I get interesting answers. Of course, I know I'm more than I think I am. And I'm not usually into New Year's resolutions, but this one sounded good to me. From Goran Pearson: we will be there for one another as fellow members of humanity. And as we hear about the fires in LA, we also hear about the help that's pouring into the area. And I just, every once in a while, because I do listen to a little bit of news, I just am in touch with the difficulty that these people are going through. And I love hearing the stories of these people. This was on the radio on the way here. In one community, stayed with their house and sprayed water on it all night. They took turns spraying water on their home. And I had a client in Los Alamos, New Mexico. That's what he did when his, this was 20 years ago maybe, there were forest fires, and they came into the town of Los Alamos and burned quite a few houses. The house next to him was destroyed on that side and across the street. But his house was okay because he got up on the roof. This is a man who was injured, severely injured in the Second World War, but he was up on his roof and with putting sprinklers, he set sprinklers on his roof and left his water going. And he said to me, he said, it was kind of funny, he said, and the water bill was $400. That's nothing, he's got his house. We are never alone. The word alone is a contraction of two words, all one, and we are actually all one. More similar than we are different. And I like to think whoever is here with me is part of my family of choice. We are all connected. We are all connected. The longer I stay, the more I learn about myself, the more I learn about you, how wise, how passionate, how happy you are. And we need each other. We need each other. So these days, who am I? We are apt to say, I am a child of a dysfunctional family. And I hear that my problems and fears are because of this treatment at a young age. But we should remember this. Jesus said, you are the light of the world. He did not say, you are the light of the world if you grew up in a loving, supportive, two-parent biological family. Nor did he say you are the light of the world if you were never violated or had no illness or grief. No matter what, you have suffered or not, you are the light of the world. Muller speaks of our potent inner luminosity that is always alive and well inside of us. And we are forever and always so much more than our collection of sorrows and failures and victories. Muller says that we may believe that we have been broken by our own tragedies and suffering and have nothing to give. We may feel hurt, we may feel afraid, yet we all have gifts that are even better when they are touched by sadness. And we offer a richness and depth unavailable to some of us who think we've had a pretty happy life. I only ever met one person who ever told me that he actually had a very, very happy childhood. And I certainly believe him. Are we broken apart or are we broken open? If we think of post-traumatic stress or PTSD, can we also think of post-traumatic growth? And that is actually a psychological condition, post-traumatic growth, because we all know of people who have taken disasters and succeeded despite the difficulties they come up against. It can come from an extremely unsupportive childhood. Who do we blame for that? Maybe it was what I did with what my parents gave to me. And it will always be true as much as I know that our parents as parents have done their very best and think that they did, even though they made mistakes, as we have made mistakes. I personally try to think of my painful experiences as part of the challenges that have made me stronger and wiser and courageous. I remember when, I don't know where this came from. I don't know if this actually happened, but I seem to remember it this way. When I was very young, my sister and I were sleeping together, and she wouldn't let me sleep, and I was angry, and she was crying, and we were upset. And my mother came along and yelled at us. But I remember saying at that time, and I've said this many times since, I am not going to let this bother me. So even as very young, we have a realization that there is some inner spirituality, there's some inner force that is taking care of us. And we can, even when we're young, if we can experience that, if we can understand that when we're very young, certainly we can understand that when we're older, and certainly we can understand that when we're thinking about politics. The next 4 years is an opportunity for all of us to be different than we might have been in the past. Say different things, feel different things, experience different things in ways that help us find the courage that is ours, find the understanding that goes beyond this body, this person. We can be stronger than we've ever been, and because of what we might experience, we can use that. We can use that experience to be much more than we've had to be before. I don't like being forced into things that I don't want, but that kind of thing has happened since I was very young. Often, it just happens. Like, we don't always get to choose what we get, but we choose to think of it in ways that we want to think of it. We are the spiritual leaders of today and tomorrow. We are on the leading edge of expanding consciousness, offering a realization of the love that fills our bodies and our hearts, that others may know what that means and how to be it. We lead by example, of course, repeating Gandhi, being the change we want to see in the world. We do this not because it is easy. It is hard to think of loving the people leading our politics. We begin in our community, our spiritual family, and we do this not because it's easy, but because it's impossible not to be the love that we are. Elora, can we? I have a song, and luckily I'm not going to sing it for you. You're very lucky.
Come on, Annie.
We're just going to sing. We've sung this many times before. We're going to sing like 4 lines a couple of times, right?
And who will love if we don't love? And who will light the way? And who will love if we don't love? And who will carry on? That's it. And who will love if who will carry on.
Now it's your turn.
I love feedback.